Hi, this is Colorful Foresight where we intuitively connect from within.
Woo woo!
Let's
Woohoo
get
is
our
right.
woo on.
All right, let's do it. Yeah.
So
Oh.
today, just to let you know, if you're a scriber of mine, please connect with Heart and Soul Connected with Allie. And if you're a scriber of Allie, please subscribe to Colorful Foresight. So today we have a really cool topic. It's about you versus psychic, not including political psychic, because most of us met through the political psychic that we follow on YouTube.
True. Yep.
And then trust in the wisdom of your own intuition.
Yeah.
So all of you have intuition. If you're alive, you have it, whether you know it or not.
Yep.
Well, most of you know.
That's
Hi,
right.
Bora Bora, Luno, Guidance, and Fatima. And
Yeah.
Connie.
And Karen's here too. Yeah. Yep. Thanks for being here, everybody. Yeah.
So what
Wow.
inspired this?
Come
It
on.
was political psychics. But we're not going to talk political per se or who we're following because there's so many. So you
Mhm.
can't figure out. So don't try to figure it out. So sometime when you listen, I know some of you, sometime you watch the political psychic or even regular psychic. Like you watch Ali, she had a lot of different shows that's non-political as well, and a lot of people like that. And you
Mhm.
may get a reading or you hear something and you're like, I feel differently. I feel differently. Now, sometimes we're inaccurate. Sometimes it may just be
Right.
interpretation. Neither person, neither side are
Mhm.
inaccurate.
Mhm.
And but sometimes we won't know. It's like you got to get to a point where you trust yourself. So I was sharing with in the backstage with Ali when I was around 1999. I went to a psychic and she told me a really bad message. And this is when I was like naive and young, and,
Sure. Yeah.
and it messed me up for 2 years. And even to this day, still makes me like. And I have a mentor I go to for about 15 years, on and off. She said, a person who really getting information from spirit guide, they would not do that doom and gloom message. A lot of time it's like
Right.
they could be upfront or they could do like a
Mhm.
warning, but it's more gentle. And also when we say things, like I see it for myself, if I'm saying doom and gloom, sometimes it's coming out of my fears or frustration. That's a
Sure.
human part of me. So, and I know
Mhm.
Allie had experiences where she believed in, she was told something and then it didn't happen and yada, yada, yada. But what's interesting with Allie
Mhm.
is that when she asked for clarity, that information could have been true, but due to what, like, what was it that changed it?
So in 1999, there were a lot of people in the Earth Changes community, let's say, where they were saying that we're going to get a lot of floods and a lot of this and a lot of that. And I prepared for that. I really did. And there was some massive flooding in Texas where I lived, but nothing really happened. And neither did it happen in 2012. Remember, that was supposed to be the end of the Mayan calendar. So I asked a psychic, Dolores Cannon, at one point, you know, what's going on, Dolores? And she said that, and I've also heard this from other psychics as well, that things can change. Things can change. We can either elevate and change the paradigm. There can be something that occurs in even a parallel time period, or the energy gets uplifted and it doesn't happen. And so I think that's hard for people to understand, that we're preparing for something. And for myself, it was hard because I really truly believed it would happen. And then I kind of looked stupid. I felt really like, why am I preparing for this? And it doesn't happen. And people go, yeah, right, lady, you know. But at the same time, we see that a lot too with some of the people that believe in the apocalypse and things falling apart. And I think everybody's experience could be different. And other people may also see something differently if it does happen. So I think there is always that possibility that things will shift. And
And with
yes,
love,
oh, Fatima, I love that. Yeah,
yeah.
prayers and good intentions help. Yes, they do. Thank you. Yeah. Yep.
So basically, it's so the universe, all our mind is this limited. The universe is so infinite. So
Oh
even
yeah.
when we hear from a wise person, think of a puzzle with 100 pieces. They're still only
Yeah.
talking about that one puzzle. So it's not any one thing. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have a 2 minute clip, a video clip, which I'm going to show. And it's
Okay.
actually about the same timeline, but how three different persons got different answers. So that's the basic, and
Okay.
then we'll go advanced. I'll show it to you, but it's under 2 minutes, so it won't be too long.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. So, oh,
Here,
you're
I'm
going
gonna,
to put it on now?
yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I forgot to tell her that I was gonna do that behind the scene. So here we go.
Okay.
Fourth century
Can you
too.
hear it?
Who was accurate?
Yes.
Was accurate when it came to
All right, here we go. So the title is which psychic first got the timeline right on their COVID-19 vaccination, and it was with three political psychics.
things
Oh,
when the
okay.
vaccination came out in 2020, because we have Linda G,
Mm-hmm.
Mel Dore, and then we have Sterling, and they all talked about it with Linda G. I haven't found
Okay.
them yet. I'll put in the description below of their YouTube channel, and they're fairly accurate.
Just
I
back
would
in
say at least
2020.
80%, and that's a lot. So the timeline, who is the most accurate? I could say it's either Linda G or all. I'll tell you why. Linda G, I wish I could find the original video, but I can't, so you have to trust me in good faith. Linda G said that it was going to be sometime in the winter of 2021.
The first vaccination.
Sterling, Mel Dore said that it was going to be around April of 2021. And Sterling said August of 21. So who's accurate? It's all about how people read the timeline. And sometimes they all could be right. It depends. Well, I say Linda G because it was winter of 2021 when it first was available for certain state and for people over 75. However, it got really quick to April. So that means he was accurate too, where the majority start getting the vaccination, especially people 60, 50, 40 years old and below. And then the majority would really, when it's available in here all over in the US and even around the world, it started to get in August of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they all could be accurate, even though they all set a different timeline. So either you say it was Linda G, because she did say winter of 2021, or you could say all, but with a different timeline.
I said different.
That's
I
good.
said different timeline, but it's not a different timeline. It's the same timeline. But Linda saw it
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
she
And
saw it here.
timelines are really hard. They're
But
hard
it's
to
the same
discern. So
timeline.
they did really well. Yeah.
It's a,
Yeah.
right, but it's a question. It's all about
Mm-hmm.
the question. If you ask question, I didn't say when was the first.
Right.
You know,
Right.
first.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was when would the vaccination was going to come out. So they got this, but then
Yeah,
we
they
have
all
different
did. Yeah.
timeline. You know,
Uh-huh.
where, for example, going to be President Biden, then suddenly went to Kamala.
Yeah.
So, in all, when we do psychic reading, you're reading the universe, and the universe is so infinite. And you have these psychic, including a try and interpretate with our little limited,
Yeah.
you know. But
Uh-huh.
the main thing of this video is you may hear something, and sometimes they're scary, news from like we were
Yeah.
saying before. But like at this point, I'm confident to go, oh no, that was just that person's fear. And also with the idea of I'm feeling differently. So you have to go with that. Like you could be listening to us, but ultimately it's about you trusting yourself. So what is your feeling about that? What
Well,
about you?
what I always think is important is number one, I think they all did, like you said, they all were right in there in that timeline, and they were all really, and timelines are really, really hard to tell. I think that's one of the hard, I won't even say, and you know, because I don't feel comfortable with that. But I really think that, you know, some of these things, that readings that we give, and readings that are asked for, we give our power over to somebody to ask a question, and then we trust it so much that we get ourselves all in a tiz if it isn't what we want it to be. Or so what I really wanted to say was that we all need to know that we all have it. We all have intuition. We all have the ability to trust it. So if something doesn't seem right, use your own discernment, because you're the one, you know, you may be wrong, as Silvia said, you may be wrong, but ultimately it's how we begin to gauge and become more in tune with our own beliefs, and what we think about, and how we understand information. So I think
Right.
it's wonderful. Yeah,
Or you may not be wrong. It's the interpretation, because remember, all three of them were right. So if
that's
you go
right.
like who, I
Yeah,
didn't say who was the first, but
correct.
that's why I said either Linda G, because if you're gonna say what
Yeah,
was the first,
yeah,
but really with all of them, it's just
it
depending on
was.
how many different people. But sometimes you can be listening to a very gifted psychic, and you feel totally different. So now we're talking something else. So then
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
confusing. And I could speak for myself, like, well, this person's gifted, but I'm feeling something totally different. Why am I giving that much
Mm-hmm.
power to the other person? I'm not like the type to be like, oh, I have to be right, even though
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, that's been happening lately a lot, especially watching people. So I think we're heading into a time where it's not about saying like, I'm always right, but it's like they're pushing people to listen to your own intuition, you know,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely. And I see Amanda, she was in a choosing who would win in different states. And Amanda, Arizona made you nauseous. So I'm guessing from what you're just saying that you see Carrie Lake winning over Ruben Gallego. What do you think? What did you think, Amanda? Because I've been watching Ruben Gallego walking into reservations and meeting all the Native Americans that he can. He promised he would. He's such a great guy. And Carrie Lake is so despicable. I would love to know what it was that you found out, Amanda, in the chat. So let us know. Yeah. But
yeah, but here's the
yes,
thing.
there,
Is it because you think
yeah.
Lake was going to win, or because you're watching her and she's making you watch? Or did a lot of
Because
icky
I like
energy?
Ruben Gallego more. Yeah. Is it because I like Ruben even though he's not my person in my state, I just think I like him more. So are we influenced by that? I think we can be. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, but it reminds me a lot of people who ask a question, and you're right, it's how the question is asked. They ask a question, and the answer is to them very mysterious, but really the person who knows the answer, it's like my dream show. The person who really knows what their dreams are telling them is them. It isn't me. I can give them tips, but they're the ones who need to discern that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And speaking like when I first started out in the 90s, going into like the woo woo, right?
Yeah.
And even today I love my psychics, but I would really gave a lot of power to them. And also I always felt like I never got satisfied. And a lot of you, I know you go around YouTube and you get the wonderful minute or two reading like you do with Ali
Mm-hmm.
and all that. But that doesn't really always
Mm-hmm.
satisfy you. It's like you can use it as a guidance, but then what? That's why you need your
Yeah.
intuition
Right.
as you live in your daily life, because they could give you insight,
Uh-huh.
but it's like,
Right.
then what? Then you have to listen in and tune in.
What are you going to do with it? Right.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? And if it doesn't resonate, why doesn't it resonate? Is it because you aren't seeing it? Or is it because you absolutely know that it's not true? Yeah, I mean, if there is such a thing as that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree,
And
Sylvia.
Deidre,
Yeah.
I agree. Like those political psychics that you mentioned are very accurate. But
Oh yeah. Yeah.
up to 3 months ago, most of the time I would be like, oh yeah, that's what I felt. Well, oh, that's interesting. That feels right. Even though they all have their little spin that may
Yeah.
show up differently. But
Yeah.
lately, what's been happening for the 3 months, they would say something, and not just those three. Remember, there's like
Mhm.
30 plus,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not including regular psych and not just political psych. And I'd be like, no, I feel very different. So I think
Mhm.
we're getting taught something
Mhm.
different now than about
Sometimes, and
all
I
that.
think it's, yeah, and there's a lot of duplicity that's going on that we don't know anything about. And the reason I know this for sure is I'm reading Bob Woodard's book that was about what's been going on in the White House about Gaza and Israel and that whole thing, and also about him, Trump, and what they thought about him and how they all thought he was, bananas. We already knew that, but this thing with Joe, and how he handled Netanyahu was very, very, it's fascinating because I've got people that are so mad with Joe Biden about his position with Israel, and it's got nothing to do with him. It has to do with Netanyahu and Egyptian President Sisi not allowing the Gaza people to come in, opening that border. And Biden's like, come on now, you can't be killing all but there's only so much the man can do. We can only blame a certain, but you don't know that until the material comes out and we hear the facts. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's very fascinating.
So,
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Wait, what had Maureen said? Maureen said, Ali, when you explained, not that one. Hold on. To me about being an empath, I never really understood what it meant. I just always thought that I felt things really strongly. So, see, those are the things that we're learning. Like, you always
Mhm.
felt it, but you didn't know what to call it,
Didn't know why. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Uh-huh.
know?
Yeah.
So, those are perfect example we're talking about. Like, you guys naturally have it, but, we're a student of life. So, that's including student of learning about our intuition. Like, the kids younger than us, they're going to be so much more in tune by the time they get to our age
Oh,
because
yeah.
we were
Yeah.
suppressed. But this is very important, especially at this time, because there are a lot of AI and things like that.
Yeah.
So having intuition and really following it so important. My spirit guide was sharing with me, guys, before TV and all that back in the day, people used to walk in the middle of the wood for like 30 days and they really were following, not very practical, like the sun and the moon and all
Uh-huh.
that, but they were really going with
Mhm.
intuition. I remember in the 80s, there were ladies older than me, and they used to go to Stonehenge and stuff like that. And I'd be like, "How did you find out about it?" Because it wasn't like they had magazine of it; they just felt drawn to it.
True.
So
Yeah.
it's not like
Right.
suddenly, but
Right.
people were using their intuition. They just probably
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
felt it was
It was
something.
it was really hard. It was really hard to find the information, and even when they first had bookstores that carried some of the books, the New Age section, let's say, was this big. There was nothing on Hinduism or Buddhism, or it was only Christianity, and there wasn't anything on stones or past lives or reincarnate. None of that stuff.
Yeah,
And
but
you
it,
had to go to a metaphysical store in order to get some of that. Yeah, if there
yeah.
was one. Yeah, yeah,
But somehow people found out.
they
So
did.
that gives me confidence, like, oh well, you don't just have to find out with obvious media, obvious posting and things like that. The universe
Mhm.
find a way to get to you. Maybe more now might be a little more quicker, but
Yeah,
so
that's true.
trust in the
And
wisdom
there's a
of your
lot of
own
people.
intuition.
Well, nothing could be more true about that also, Sylvia, than people who seek out a guru, or a person who tells them they should be this way or they should act, that you have to send me all your money, or if you want to get rid of a curse, send me $300 and this and that. And there are people that buy into that because we know there are cults that have been around forever and ever. So that's another thing we have to really be careful of. Use your
That's
discernment. You
true.
don't
They've
have
always
to
been
give these
around.
people. Yeah,
Yeah,
they have.
and
Yeah.
you hear about like the sacrifice that they used to do in South America. They would put
Uh-huh.
like one female in the mountain, and like different culture had unique things. But I have something which I don't mind to share, but I was naive,
Mhm.
and it might have been even before
Uh-huh.
1998. It must have been like 18, 19. And I went to a you know, when you go to like those Windows psychic thing, you
Uh-huh.
know, the Windows psychic. So I went, and you know, she was reading me. It was pretty accurate because these are the people who are gifted, but they use it for bad. Because she was
Right.
reading my thing
Yeah.
very well,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, I don't remember the reading, but basically she's like, you know, for $100 or whatever it was, we're gonna put this money to the Virgin Mary. We're gonna put it in the backyard, you know. And I
Yeah.
remember, but I was very like this, and I
I
remember
know.
hesitating. That means my intuition did come through, but I was still.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember asking her like, "Well, why you have to bury in the backyard? Why don't you just, you know, give it to the church? You know, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know." And she made me like
Uh-huh.
take this egg and put it in your body. And when she cracked the egg, it was a little red. Meanwhile, she might have done the former guy thing with the ear. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know how she made it red, you know. So after
Yes.
that, I
Yes.
quickly said I've been bamboozled. But I'm glad I had that experience because I never went through that again.
Yeah.
But it's like there was
Right. That's
part of
right.
me
You learned a
as
lesson.
innocent as
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
was hinting to me something is off. But I was like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
no, they're gonna help me with my troubles and da 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 da. But it
Uh-huh.
didn't like stop me from going into the woo woo. If anything, I went more into it, and you learn every time.
Uh-huh.
But that's
Sure.
including going to this another one who was so bad with her reading and so doom and gloom that it, like I said, it messed me up for like 2 years.
Sure. Sure. Because you
But
believed her too. That yeah.
whether
She
it's
got
true or not, but
yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
a real psychic said a real spirit guide would not talk in that manner. That either
Right.
like their
True.
ego
Yeah.
in a way
Yeah.
or their
Yeah.
lack of how they could give the it could have been a bad person. Also,
Mhm.
but again, I learned from those two, and if anything, made me
You
go
did.
more into the metaphysics because it made me go, oh, I need to like fix myself, which we know it's a never-ending thing.
Right.
But my journey
Mhm.
continued with it. So even more most recently, you know, I asked a question to somebody, and wonderful person, but she, you know, she was just sharing her information. It had her fears in it,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
remember this with me like 30 years ago. I would have been like, oh my god, but I
I
was
know.
like, I was like, oh, she's in her fear.
Yeah.
Uh, whether the information accurate or not didn't feel right. It didn't feel
Mhm.
accurate,
Yeah.
but I was, you know. But listen, we're all learning, and
Well,
a lot
I
of
have a
you,
yeah, I
what?
have a story about something I was told that I didn't want to believe, and I
Oh,
didn't believe, and then it changed. But I do want to. Can I just answer Cocotte and Papier?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's go.
your intuition, it takes practice. It really takes practice, and it's always easier for you to see the anybody else because you're on the outside and we can always see their faults and so forth, for instance, but we can't see our own even though they may be similar. So it does take practice. It does take, and it's also not, you're not thinking from here, you're thinking from here in the heart or in the gut. And so it's not from a mental state, and that's what they remind us when we're learning how to do psychic work, that you got to get out of the head in order to do it. But
And you know what's
um,
great? When you
oh,
get bamboozled or you realize you were wrong or whatever, actually makes you better. And then you learn from it.
mhm.
And also, every time I got something right, it's kind of like a bank,
Yeah,
and the
yeah, it
trust
is.
happens more and more. A
Uh-huh,
lot of times I could be on target, but
uh-huh.
because of my self-esteem,
Yeah,
it gets in the way.
yeah,
So
I get
that's
you.
why I really don't do reading because until I work on that piece, I
Hmm.
can't be a
That's
good,
true. Yeah,
yeah.
you want
So
to feel confident, and it is a muscle, Amanda. Yes, yes, Amanda, I agree with you. Um, and I want to let's talk about this, but I do want to quickly tell you that when I was married to my third husband, I went and this woman did a reading. She did a palm reading on me. And she told me I was going to be married 4 times. And I said, oh my God, no, 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 no. I don't want to get married again. No, no. And I did. It was a number of years later. I mean, it was like probably 11 or 12 years later. It's just that I didn't want to believe that, but I didn't leave it in my mind either. I wanted to make sure that I let that go because, they also could tell you have 12 kids, but maybe you never got pregnant. So if you had, you would have had 12. So see how that can work as well. But all right. So you can put
Yeah,
up
but that's why
Denise's
we're saying the
question.
universe is so fluid, and
Yeah. Yeah,
even the best
it is.
psychic are interpreting, even the knowledgeable. Let's say the 1,000 piece of the puzzle. Let's say the universe is 1,000 piece. Every person telling you only one puzzle piece, which sounds
Yeah.
like the answer, but it's not. It's only
Yeah.
one puzzle of the
That's true.
whole.
That's true.
Oh.
That's very
So
true.
what did there was another question. Let
Yeah,
me
it was Denise Fletcher. You know what my answer is going to be? It's going to be a question. And I wounded healer number one. Wounded healers usually are people who have psychic talents later. But I want to ask you this question. Why is it that most nurses are fat? And I don't mean like chubby. I mean like
Oh, could it taken in?
I had Well,
Taken
I
in.
kind of was like, yeah, maybe they're padding themselves or something, padding themselves from anything. But it's very interesting because I was every time I've gone to a bariatric surgery appointment and I'm doing intake with the nurses, all of the nurses are like very, very heavy. I mean, like maybe 400 pounds. And they work in that environment. And you wouldn't think that it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm wondering if that's true, that maybe people who are psychic want to they want to help the abuser. They can see the wounding of the abuser, and they want to help that abuser, but it isn't going to work because they're too close to that abuser.
You know what comes to mind?
Yeah,
It's
what?
because the fact is, those psychics are just like you and I. They just have a really interesting talent or gift. And the fact that
Uh-huh.
we're all intuitive. Whether
Right, right.
take away the psychic part,
Yeah,
some people are just naturally maybe very strong psychically because maybe it's in their life path or in their family, but everybody's
yeah,
intuitive. Cop have a
yeah,
hunch.
yeah.
Business people have a gut feeling. There's a lot of different ways.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I do
that's
feel a
true.
lot of
That's
time
very
what you
true.
do for a living is part of your life path.
Mhm.
So like the weight thing or the doctor,
Yeah,
God, they
yeah,
say a lot of time
yeah.
doctors have God complex because they think that they could fix it. You can't fix it all the time, things like
Either
that.
that or my husband was for years and years wouldn't go to the doctor because he's a doctor and he knew better and he didn't want to
Mm.
listen to me or anybody else. It's like, my father was like that. He said, "Oh, you're going to be fine. You're all right. You're all right." And my appendix almost burst when I was 10. So I wasn't all right. So yeah,
It's
it
like a
reminds me
celebrity.
of something like that.
It's like being a
Yeah, yeah,
celebrity.
yeah.
They are
Mhm,
interesting, but they're just like you and I. Any of us. I mean, we're on video, so
mhm,
what? You know what I
mhm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying we're a celebrity, but I'm just saying like they
I
just
know.
have very interesting career. But then you wonder why they're a mess because they're
Well,
just
I
like
think a
anybody
lot of
else.
them. Don't you think a lot of them are a mess because they have no privacy? And I wouldn't be able to deal with it. I can't go to the store. I can't go anywhere without somebody if I was them, recognizing me and hounding me and taking my pictures. Look what happened to Diana, you know.
Right, because
Yeah.
think about it. You're a regular person. You're born, even if you're special, something unique about you. You're thrown in the spotlight. You're told you're awesome,
Yeah.
and then it's a
Yeah.
very hard. It's a
Yeah.
very also soon you not become popular. Then you try and be successful and continue with that. Then you have all these people
Yeah.
who are telling you you're wonderful or you're awful. So it's
Right.
the same thing. So going back to trust in the wisdom of your own intuition, I did a whole bunch of videos where the average
Mhm.
people are talking about how they use their intuition. They don't even do the woo woo. So the idea of what woo
Uh-huh.
woo,
Yeah.
and we're finding out now, it's becoming more mundane, if
Mhm.
anything.
Right.
So, and what do
That's
you
very
guys
true.
think
That's
about
very
this?
true.
So,
Yeah. So I was saying today there was a gal that was going to be homeless in my other show, and we were trying to help her out by giving her some information. And it's finding those symbols and things that happen in the world as you go through your day also, that is part of your intuition. You get in your car and you turn the radio on and a song comes on that has words that really can help you. You see a sign and the sign says something, or you go into a building and the building has something in it that you needed to see, or a person you needed to meet. So all that is involved in this too, Sylvia,
Right. The
I think.
average everyday thing we think. I've done some videos even with Ali on it woo woo even for me. As I was doing a lot of the videos, I think I shared with you, I found out that a lot of miracles are very mundane. But miracle I
Yeah,
had in my mind
sure.
had to be like the fantastical, the very obvious. But the miracle
Right,
is
right,
you were thinking about something, and you were thinking about, oh, I
right.
have to get a mechanic. Your friend call you. You suddenly talk about mechanics. Like, oh, my brother just met this mechanic, and we don't think anything of
Yeah,
it. You know.
right, right.
So I hope what you
Or,
take away.
you haven't heard from a friend.
Yes,
You haven't heard from a friend in a long time and you're thinking about them and they call you. It's like, wow, same wavelength. That's
even
intuition. That's
yeah,
your intuition.
and
Yeah.
some of you may be a
Mhm.
good cook, and you don't even follow recipes. I mean, you use practical, you use the science of it, but it's also I feel into it. I'm feeling into the food. It's very intuitive.
Mhm. Um, Cocotte and Papier, you mentioned about seeing the pain of the abuser. And I remember when Trump came off a plane and he was very depressed. He was at the White House at the time. I do not care for him at all in any way. And
Oh, you don't?
I felt bad for him. He looked
Right,
very downtrodden. That
right.
doesn't make any sense, but it's my empathy because I wouldn't want anyone to look that way. I'd want to go over to them and say, "What's wrong? I'm sorry. Give me a hug." And
I
yeah.
now there's I'm not alone, and you just proved it. Sometime when you see him like he's going downward, then a part of me's like, oh, but then I snap out of it. But it's because everybody got eyes. I don't know why some get more lost than others. But if you're a
Mhm,
real light worker, like we all
mhm,
say we're light workers, you would
mhm.
be neutral. My personality wouldn't kick in and go, I hate this person. It was more like that person's
I know.
been hurt
No,
and
you're
da,
right.
da, da,
Mm.
but he's frightening. So I'm like, I
Yeah,
want somebody
yeah.
else to
That's
lead the.
our intuition saying this isn't a normal thing, I think. And, yeah, very scary. Yeah,
And
it's
what
our
I've learned
fear.
how
And
important intuition is, being around with a lot of people who are still supporting the former guy, and they're not like the hillbillies and all that. They're intelligent. They come from all different skin color and all that, and they're still for him at this point. And it's not because they
yeah,
are bad people, but they're very probably not in touch with their intuition. But everybody has it. But even though they're not in touch with that part, they may be in touch with their intuition in their work field or this and that.
true.
So
That's true.
sometimes we're not fully
Yeah.
blue. So what did Bora
Mhm.
Bora
Yeah.
said? Oh, thank you, Bora Bora. She's just
Yeah.
saying,
Bora is yeah, she's a great moderator. Yeah. And Fatima, you feel the same way? Yeah. I it's a feeling that I've always had. Um, yeah, I know. I know. And I have sympathy for the thing I guess I have is I have sympathy for the fact that they're putting him out there when he's very, very ill and he should not be doing what he's doing. And they
yeah,
shouldn't
right
allow
now,
him to do it.
I
Right.
mean, it's pretty clear that using him to, whatever
Mhm,
that are
mhm.
handling him just to get in and all that. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I want to ask some of you, and you please answer to Ali and I, what is, by doing like, 'cause a lot of you are from this community where you do attend a lot of Ali shows and maybe attend to mine, not just political psychic, but regular topics from all walk. You've been
Mhm.
doing this for several years. Have you learned that Sometime what you thought, you hear the intuitive or the person played the card or saying what you thought. Didn't that help you go, oh, it gives you that awareness? I know Amanda said yes.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
know, like when I listen to others, I learn, especially when I do tarot card, I go, oh, I was thinking
Uh-huh.
that. So
Mhm.
it's
Yep.
it's pretty
Yep.
cool. But at this time, please trust in your in your wisdom, especially when you are so into the psychic stuff. I'm totally into it. I always love a good psychic, you know, and get a
Uh-huh.
reading and
Yeah.
all that. It's
Yeah.
always fun for me. What fun is doing these
Mhm.
following Alley show and she has all these guests and they do their thing. And
Uh-huh.
but you
Uh-huh.
still got to
Yeah.
remember you, the you that's in it. I'm
Yeah.
learning to trust
Yeah.
it more. That's
Yeah.
cool, Maureen.
There you go, Maureen.
I think
Good.
that's why
Good.
this is all
And you know
happening.
what? Sometimes you'll be wrong, but all psychics are not 100% right. So, yeah, because
And you know
things
what's
can change.
frustrating? Sometimes it's again, it's not. Sometimes you're just wrong, okay? But sometimes it's not you're wrong. It's the interpretation,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
sometimes it's for
Yep.
you to understand. Like, oh wait, I did think this, but then my mind got in the way, and I said that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Um,
It's,
my
Mary
mother,
said, "I'm
oh, go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead."
No, go ahead, Sylvia.
Mary
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, it's a sort of like curse, something for everyone."
Yeah, it's sort of like church. There's
Oh, this
something in it for everyone. Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but when you go to church, you might like the music, you might like the sermon, you might like just seeing people. So it's kind of like that too. Um, I think that my mother was one of the best intuitive people I ever knew. And she knew if somebody was rotten. She knew if there was something going on. She knew. And I remember having a dream when I was with my second husband, and I dreamt that he was cheating on me. And when I woke up in the morning, I really felt it was true. I felt it wasn't just a dream. It was really what I knew in my subconscious mind. And I found out very shortly after that he was. And so I I but I asked somebody the question like, "Do you think he's cheating on me?" And I'm thinking if you have to ask the question, then you already have the answer. And a lot of times we ask a question when we already know the answer. And sometimes it's for validation, oh, that's what I thought too. And sometimes I believe it's from fear. And of course, we don't like the answer if it's what we really already know that we don't want to know. So
You know what it
that's
reminds me of?
important.
When it's around the pandemic that all of these start coming. We all started to, all of you started to create your YouTube channel and all that, and everybody was doing their
Mhm.
practicing readings. And I remember, and I've been doing this for 30 years, but I remember asking the same question on different channels. And I remember
Uh-huh.
people, right, I stopped doing that because we all done it. I know some of you done it. Um,
At least you
and
admit
like,
it.
and I'm like, and sometimes you get different answers. So first of all,
Mhm.
how much information you gonna get within a minute or two? Then you're
Well, it's just
asking,
a mini reading. Yeah.
right, the
Yeah.
minute, but I'm just saying,
So,
no, they're wonderful. But my point is
yeah.
also you're
Yeah.
asking, the more people you go, the more confusing it is. I could have 5 great psychics, but
Yes.
if you go to all of them, they're gonna
Yeah.
confuse you because they're all coming from a different
True.
angle,
Yeah.
interpretation and
Yeah.
gifts. So
Right. Right.
I remember
You're
going
right.
back to going, why am I asking the same question? I'm not. I don't feel like I have power in my intuition. I don't trust it, or I don't want to hear what.
Yep.
What if they're
Correct.
giving you good
That's
news? Let
possible
me
too.
tell you. I've been doing this for so many
Mhm.
years. You've been on YouTube. There's so many bad readers. Some of them. I'm
There
not
are.
even talking
There
about
are
us.
some. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
Uh-huh.
Like there's
Yeah.
brilliant. I'm
Yeah.
like they're making up
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, there's a lot of them all over the world. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I got so
Yep.
jaded that when I start following the readers, like including Allie and all that, Ginger Faye.
Oh, yeah.
Ginger
Mhm.
Faye.
Yeah.
So I remember
Yeah.
she read me and she said at one point, and I was kind of like, okay, what they're gonna say in a minute too. Sometimes I could be like
Mhm.
mean,
She can
and she
nail a
goes,
lot of things, really.
"Oh my
She's
god!"
awesome. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
he said, "Oh, I see something about a dragonfly," and I was like, "Okay, I live in Queens. We're not gonna see a lot of dragonflies." She goes, "Something
Right.
really," I'm like, whatever, right? So
Mhm.
that night, I go outside, and it's not that we don't have dragonfly, but it's rare.
Yeah, you
Maybe
don't see him very often. Yeah.
right. It's more
Yeah.
like in a suburb and things like that. So I go
Right.
to the backyard, and it was kind of like a little dark. I go back to my door over here.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, I see all these dragonfly, like 4 or 5 of them. It kind of became like a cartoonish. Like I'm not thinking
Yeah.
about it. The reading was done. I'm minding my business, go
Yeah.
in the backyard, and I go, "Oh my god!" Because I was
Yeah.
judging her. Because sometimes when you
Mhm.
go too much into the spiritual work, you get a little jaded. And I
Yeah.
saw not
Yeah.
only
That's
one,
true.
but like 4 or 5 of
Yeah, a
them.
lot of
Big.
it. That's awesome.
And I have not seen it since. This
That's
is
aw
2 years ago. That
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
shared that with her,
Uh-huh.
like the ginger. I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
like,
I'm glad you shared it
well,
with us. That's really cool.
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
what it made me realize is to honor these people that are doing a minute or two reading.
Uh-huh.
Also, like,
Sure.
just because I had bad experience, um, but look at all the good experience too. And again, it goes back to how much power do we give to others? So we could go to others
Mhm.
and enjoy their guidance and
Sure.
clues, but then the rest of it's like you have to do your own work. But let's go what
Okay.
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 Do you have do you think we can hear message and then change it before it happens because of the prediction we do not like and we set intention for change? Yeah, she just said it before her fourth husband. Um,
Right, and not only that, Mary, but it's like if a psychic told you, "Mary, you're gonna fall off a horse. You're gonna," and you don't go on a horse that day, then you don't fall off because you got the free will in there. So I really do believe that, Mary. Yeah, I love the question. Yeah,
yeah, and
that's awesome.
that's why I think with the energy being really fast, things are more fluid and changing.
Yeah,
Venus
very
said, I
much so.
thought about asking the same question twice today. Look, I've done it.
That's
Only
okay.
because it's about
It's
my
okay.
dog and I want to make sure she's
Mhm.
okay 100% because she's my baby. Here's the thing, if
Well,
you have a question, sometimes you got to be prepared
uh-huh.
if they don't tell you what you don't like. I'm talking about like from a good
Well,
one.
yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I'm not an animal psychic per se, but I talk to my animals so much, I kind of can really figure out what it is that they're dealing with most of the time. But it comes from my constant idea also that Venus, that they're my babies and they are, it's like when you have an infant, they can't talk to you and tell you they got a cold or something. And so, but moms know. And I think it's the same way with animals. I really do when they're in your home. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mary, going back to you, I was being told that I could do
Mm-hmm.
readings. So in my mind, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna process." But before I process on other people, the energy exchange, you always have to do an energy exchange. So the energy exchange was going to be that they're going to give the feedback. And the universe is about give and
Hmm.
take, you know.
Sure.
So that's
Yeah.
why if you get free
Mhm.
reading here, at least say thank you, comment or whatever. Because people want to, they have the opportunity to give. But anyway, so I contacted Cherry, Voices from a Swamp, and I said, Cherry, you want to like practice on each other doing mediumship? Because I figure
Good.
mediumship is
Yeah.
kind of cool. Yeah, but let me tell you, mediumship is kind of cool
Okay.
because it already happened. I don't have to do prediction because psychic mediumship is stuff that already
Correct.
happened. So you're just kind of like comforting
Hmm.
the family with messages from their loved
Hmm.
one. So I
Hmm.
heard that goes with Mary's question. I heard start practicing spiritually. So my mind then kicked in, try to control it, be like, well, I'm gonna do mediumship, right? Because
Hmm.
I want it this way. So here Cherry and I start doing that with each other. Maybe she's more of a mediumship. I sat there and I couldn't hear nothing for 15 minutes. The la- And that unusual, because you always hear something. So I was struggling with it.
Hmm.
when I went to my mentor, which I haven't talked in a while, it's been 15 years. You don't want to go to somebody all the time, but they stay in your life. And she
Right.
goes, it's because you're
Yeah.
trying to control it. Not everybody's meant to be a medium, and you are
Right.
meant to do broader. But what happened? You heard your spirit guide tell you start practicing, but
Hmm.
you found somebody you felt comfortable with, which is great. But you're already
Yeah.
controlling the narrative. You wanted just to do
Right.
mediumship when
Right.
it's supposed to do something more broad. So we could get in the way, definitely. So
Yeah. I really love that you brought that up because I do think that that we want to be this. We'd love to be like this person. You know, I'd love to do readings like this person does, but maybe
yeah,
that's not what your purpose is. And so once you get it up here, it's hard to get it back down here again. You know, and with me, I don't sometimes hear things, but I'll just have this feeling. I have a lot of feeling, and I actually hear a lot of music, lyrics, and stuff.
that's
That's
cool.
where I come, and that's
Yeah.
cool too. I like that too. So,
And and here's
but
another
yeah,
thing.
you're right. You let your mind
And
go.
here's
Yeah,
another
go
thing.
ahead,
You
Sylvia.
could
Yeah.
sometimes just because, let's say you go, okay, I'm gonna do reading, and you have 10 people come
Hmm.
to you.
Hmm.
Maybe some people could do that 10, but maybe you only meant to read 3 of them. You're not asking your
Uh-huh.
spirit
Yeah.
guide, should I be reading this person? Nothing wrong with the other person, but the universe knows something
Right.
bigger. So you start trying to read all 8 of them or 10 of them, and it doesn't work out. And so it's like, again, I would say, well, I want to have all 10, or I could use all this
Uh-huh.
money. But if you're doing like sacred work,
Yeah.
maybe you're not meant to read
Right.
everybody. That's including like
Right. That's
maybe
very
I'm
true. Yeah.
maybe I'm supposed to be practicing with this other person versus this friend that I feel very comfortable with. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
So again, we get
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
way. So that's really big. So that again goes with
Hmm.
when we're listening to psychic and political psychic, you have to trust in the wisdom of your own intuition. But not only that, override
Yeah.
your own personality. You
Oh,
know?
very much so. Now, Mary, I love what you have accomplished. And the only thing I can say is that my roof, and you remember, Mary, because you were around then, my roof and everybody, I used to be Henny Penny. Oh my God, the sky is falling. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm so
No.
stressed. And instead I said, what can I do about it? I don't know. It will get fixed eventually. But that was never like me. So taking something and stepping back and realizing that I don't need to give my power away to anything, including my anger.
And your
So,
fears or
yeah, that's fabulous, Mary.
you
Yeah,
know what's
that's
interesting? My
fabulous. Yeah.
in real life, my dad and I didn't get along because he was stressed and he didn't have the patience, but he was very handy. So now that he's gone,
Mhm.
I talk to him on the other side because the other side he's calm. He's in a better,
Yeah.
light.
He's a different
But
guy.
I actually, I'm the least handy person, but I'm not dumb. It's just that I always had my father, my brother, so I never got that. I
Sure.
always had other people doing things for
I
me.
know.
You know what I mean? So sometimes he'll tell me things. I go, Dad, I don't
Mhm.
know what to do. So he'd help me be handy.
Mhm.
He'll tell me things. I'll be like, oh, like I'll
Isn't
hear,
that awesome?
isn't that funny?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So it
So
goes back to
JJ
like
said the
sometimes your
one
intuition could be from your spirit guide, like guiding you, not just your
that's very
brain. Like,
true. Not just your oh yeah, and I never hear anything from outside. Some people do, I don't. But
but you feel it. You
so
get a sense
JJ
of it.
wonders about whom one is meant or not meant to read. Well, I have a situation that I'll tell you about that's very fascinating about that.
That's
There was a
interesting.
person that I know that is a reader, and somebody came to get a reading from them, and they were very contrary. They were asking questions and saying, you can't do it this way. I want you to pull cards, and you can't not just talk. I want to see cards so I can see what you're doing, and so I can trust what you're saying. And this person said, I'm sorry, you'll need to go down the hall and find someone else that can help you, because I don't need to do that. And
It works both
so
ways.
yeah, it does. It does. The same thing with a reader. If you go to a reader and you're not comfortable with the reader, then you just say, I think I'll find somebody else who can read for me. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Betty.
It's just
Yeah, I love
understand.
that. Listening to
It's about
spirit. Yeah, listen to
it's
them.
just about understanding oneself. That's all. It's like I learned about wanting to do a certain kind of reading, and also
Right.
learning that just because I'm comfortable with this person, I maybe need to practice with somebody else with a different set of skill set. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah. But I love that. See, you are somewhat of a medium, though, and you didn't even realize it, because if dad is talking to you and you're hearing what he's saying, then you
Yeah.
have that ability. But when you're
Right.
doing it for somebody else and you're pigeonholed yourself into that, it's almost like
And also, I'm not that
people will
person to be
say,
like, oh, wait a minute, it's from an A, it's an Anthony. They're different than just hearing information and go, that's a really fine
right.
tuned skill. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
Anthony is a
Evidential
G.
medium. Yeah.
Right.
That's evidential mediumship. That's what the really big guns like John Edward do that.
Yeah, they work
But
at it.
yeah, yeah, they do. They do. But yeah, that's awesome. And
Yeah,
everyone is very different. That's true. That's why we have, I mean, that's why we have different kinds of food and different kinds of friends and
I know,
activities that
like
we like. So
Fatima.
yeah. Mhm.
Fatima go to a lot of our channels. She loved, she's into the woo like all of us. And
Mhm.
I can share this because she shared it publicly. She was at a dentist's office. She was getting like these insight about the car outside, and she didn't pay attention
Oh.
to it. And your car got
Mhm.
towed, right? Or something. She's like, why did I
Oh,
listen to
no.
myself? These things
Oh my
happen.
god. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a lot like, they'll say, if you don't listen to your intuition, have you ever noticed that you're supposed to be you're gonna leave to go somewhere, and you're feeling like you shouldn't go, you don't wanna go, there's something, but you're not listening, and you get in the car and you get, stuck at a train crossing, or you find out you don't have enough gas, so you gotta take a delay and go get your it's the universe protecting you in many cases. And so getting upset about it is not worth it because you just didn't listen to your intuition. You did not figure out that it was trying to slow you down. So something worse may not have happened to you. So
It's an art. It's like doesn't
it's
matter how
exactly
many
what it is.
decades you work into it. Because then next time you'll be like, "Well, I heard it, and then it didn't mean anything." It's just one of those things. So Betty is a
Yep.
therapist, and for years she
Oh,
told her
wonderful,
patients,
Betty. My daughter is too. Yeah. Yeah. There's no such thing as one. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no
You're in the
such
right
thing
place.
as one therapist that's right for everybody. Give it a session or two,
Right.
you will know if you're in the right place, right? And I bet you, Betty, like you might met some great potential client, but it's not meant to
Well,
be.
she says here there were 3 patients I had to ask management to transfer to somebody else, and I had to tell the patient. So it's that you, Betty, were apparently feeling like this wasn't working, your conversations, and you had to say to the patient, "I think somebody else might be able to help you better." And boy, that's really something, 'cause there are people that won't do that, and I really love that. Yeah, it's really good. That's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
So that's the biggest lesson. The
Um
biggest lesson is if you are practicing, sometimes your friend that you want to practice on may not be the person for you, and vice versa. Could you feel comfortable, you know?
Yeah, you do,
And if
you
it
do.
feels
Yeah.
funny and not so great, even that's not, and you're forcing it, it's not great either. So Mary continued with,
Mhm.
she had a reading many years ago. I was totally like the person, had no idea what they are talking about. People I didn't know. 6 years later, it all came true and forgot about it, then found tape and was. Yeah, sometimes you get that too. I remember Allie and I talked
Yeah,
about how we had psychics say things to us and then nothing ever happened. Then 20 years later, like for me, it was like
right.
20 years.
Yeah.
Oh, for you, it was somebody told
It
you
was
that
that 3rd, 4th husband.
seen,
Yeah,
you're going to be
yeah.
seen, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Oh,
now you're
that's
not
right. The
seen.
astrology told me. Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
and you're like,
They
"What?"
told me I'd be, people would come to me in my home when I was
And you're
older,
like,
And I thought,
Yeah.
I don't want people to come to me in my home. Well, this is my home and I'm in it and you're here. So it's about the best. It doesn't, that's the funny thing is even this morning, I got a card that said water for somebody. She was wanting to talk to her aunt on the other side. And her aunt was born in 1926, so was around during the polio years and got
Oh,
polio from being swimming in the public pool. So,
wow.
but I didn't know. I didn't
Right.
know, and it could have not have made sense to somebody else at all. So sometimes and John Edwards said that many times people will, do you know an Uncle John? Do you have an uncle named John, or is there a cousin or aunt? Nope, no John, no John. You go home and did you hear from Uncle John? It's ridiculous. Yeah, but it's true. Yeah. Yes, absolutely, Amanda. Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna wrap up the video, and so remember, utilize as you listen to other psychics and to political psychic. Keep learning and follow your own guidance because otherwise you're gonna be
Right.
too much into like relying on them, and especially if you're those people who ask the
And we
same
don't
question.
want you in fear. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Don't be in fear. Don't be in fear. That's the key, really. If there's ways that people can say things as well that are not fearful. They're just,
right.
this may happen, but it's not like, oh, be careful. Woo, yeah. It's so much. Oh, Maureen had she had a psychic.
Okay, she had a
Oh,
that her husband, when I was 19, I didn't meet him until I was 37. And what is even stranger, his father and my father worked together. Woo woo! That woo woo.
that's like a picture that somebody posted on Facebook that was a picture of a person and they were a kid, and in the background was another kid. And it wasn't anybody they knew. It was like they were at Disney World or something. Okay. That's her husband now. They met later.
You know what's funny? Like some of
That
you
gives
guys,
me the goosebumps.
well, you know what it is? I remember
Yeah.
sharing this with Ali that I had so many bad psychics that I got so jaded. That's why when Ginger was saying that, I was like, okay, whatever. But then
Uh-huh.
sometimes some of you get really great psychics. And then you remember like
Mhm.
they were off by time or you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so it's just like it's like an art. Like sometimes it's this way, sometimes that way.
It is. It's a
Sometimes you feel like you know.
possibility. I do believe it's a possibility, giving the energy of the time of the reading. Let's just put that out there. That
Yeah.
this is what exists right now. Tomorrow may be very different. So, yeah,
And I know and a
absolutely.
lot of you
Absolutely.
are your intuition is getting more stronger by listening to a lot of these shows that you watch on YouTube. Because
Yeah.
even though it seems like you're listening to the one in front of us, like us, for example, it's actually for you to trust yourself more. Remember, the divine is on your side, and the divine knows all. Have faith. Leave your ego out of it. Stop worrying. We're going to end it with that
Thank you,
note.
Betty. I love that. Thank you, everybody. You've been great giving all your stories and opinions and being here with Sylvia and I. Thank you. Yeah, thank
Oh,
you,
yeah, and
Sylvia.
please
Great
comment. Let us know
idea.
what you thought
Great
from it.
show. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.